The House of Representatives today voted a government shutdown by approving a $984 billion spending bill to fund the government through September. My next guest voted against the bill. Joining us is Congressman Marlin Stutzman of Indiana, member of the House Financial Services Committee, chairman of the Republican Study Committee's Second Amendment Initiative. Congressman, good to have you with us. Let's start with first, why did you vote against the continuing resolution?
Well, Lou, great to be with you. You know, as the House and Senate have been working through the continuing resolution, there seems to be a lot of work to avoid a government shutdown, and I think that is worthwhile in making sure that we find those places where we do agree. But, you know, it goes over to the Senate after the House had passed it last week, and the Senate just can't help themselves from plussing up programs, you know, including a salmon project. It's things like that that just continue to be a habitual problem in the Senate. And to me, you know, the American people are expecting us to budget responsibly and to spend taxpayer dollars wisely. And, you know, we're seeing the consequences of this irresponsibility with $17 trillion of debt.
The House passed the bill nonetheless, and now the President will assuredly sign it. Your judgment now on that spending bill, you vote against it. It's going to go into law. It's going to fund the government through the remainder of the year. Now we need a budget for next year, and hopefully one that is looking brightly, intelligently down the path of the future. What are the prospects? What is the line for your support for a new budget bill for the new fiscal year?
Well, if you remember, Lou, earlier this year we passed No Budget, No Pay, something that I strongly supported in a bill that the House passed first, sent to the Senate. The Senate passed it, and basically, very simply says, if Congress doesn't pass a budget, members of Congress don't get their paychecks. And that seems to have forced the budget, or the Senate, into to passing a budget. We worked on ours over the past month. We passed it today actually,
right.
And with Republican support. And now the Senate has the challenge of passing a budget that raises spending. It increases taxes to the tune of about $1 trillion, where the Republican budget is looking down the road and trying to get back to that balanced budget principle.
Cutting $5 trillion. The Ryan budget would cut $5 trillion from the level of increased spending. Still, government would grow at more than 3% a year. You do support the Ryan budget.
I do, and it's really about making sure that we protect Medicare for the long term, for those who are over the age of 55, protecting Social Security. But, you know, we also have to take a step back and realize that these programs aren't going to be able to operate the same years down the road. And so for younger generations like myself, if we want those programs to be solvent, we're going to have to make some adjustments. And that's what the Ryan budget does do. And it's just simply using common sense and looking at the math that we can't continue down the current path that we're on.
Common sense doesn't apply much when we talk about the Second Amendment in this country in Washington, D.C. You've got to be gratified that the assault weapons element be in the Harry Reid package, the Democratic package that he's going to put before the Senate after Easter. That's a major victory. Do you have the sense that you're going to be able to forestall any infringement on the Second Amendment by this administration and the Democratic Party?
Well, I don't think that President Barack Obama is going to give up. You know, he talked about that when he visited with us House Republicans last week here at the Capitol when he came down. And I think that Senator Reid and Senator Feinstein are finally realizing and just facing reality that, you know, the assault weapons ban that was passed in the 90s didn't work. There were still a high percentage of gun crimes. I completely understand why we're having this dialogue, because we're all grieving over the shooting in Sandy Hook in Connecticut, and of course the other shootings around the country.
I just got to say, we're not grieving really as much or profoundly as I would have expected. We haven't heard any discussion about mental health legislation that would go to the issue of gun possession and ownership. We're not grieving nearly as much as I would have expected because this Congress and this Senate haven't passed legislation, nor has the President called for it, to secure, provide for safety for our students in public schools in this country. How serious and how deeply grieving are we if they won't even talk about the two principal issues that are relevant to all that has befallen us?
Lou, you're exactly right, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why I went to the Republican Study Committee chair and said we need to have a gun initiative, a Second Amendment initiative, so we talk about the other side of the gun issue. The President, the Vice President, the Senate, they're only talking about gun control when I want to look at the people behind the guns. And why do we see these people, they have a certain have problems that they need help with.
I wish we had more time, but we're out of time. We thank you for being here. We wish you good luck. And you're talking about the other side of the issue. To me, there is the Second Amendment that needs to be preserved. That's right. And we applaud your efforts and that of others to make certain that the Second Amendment is upheld and not infringed upon. Congressman Marlin Stutzman, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Lou. Good to be with you.